It is the day before New Year's, and I have my New Year's traditions for this time of year. But before I get into that, I probably should have at least mentioned that rather vulgar sign on my refrigerator freezer over there. I'll explain that when I get to my New Year's resolutions. But first of all, talking about this time of year, what I like to do, and I typically do it in my blog on my website, and I published that this morning, a rather long blog in which I talk about the year that was, 2017, reflecting upon some of my successes and maybe failures. A motorcycle going by. This really is a trailer park, folks. And kind of looking forward to the coming year, things that I'm looking forward to. One of my traditions, another one for this time of year, is there's a radio program that I always listen to on New Year's Eve. It comes out of the University of Southern California radio station, KUSC, which is normally a classical music radio show. But on New Year's Eve, Jim Veda, who's the MC, the announcer, whatever you call them on radio, he does an evening of poor taste, questionable taste, comedy. And a lot of it is like old comedy, old radio comedy, for example, Spike Jones and so forth. And it's fun. It's not all comedy. He always plays the opera De Fledermaus during the evening, and then at midnight he plays a Strauss waltz. That's the tradition that he has. But it's kind of fun, and you can listen it to yourself if you want. I think you can listen to it live over the internet if you go onto their website, kusc.org. University of Southern California, KUSC. And if you live within proximity of Los Angeles or where I live, you can listen to it over the radio. It's KUSC is FM 91.5. And if you live like further out, Thousand Oaks area, it's FM 91.1, KDSC. And it starts at 7 o'clock in the evening, our time, Pacific time, so Pacific Standard Time. I listen to it every year, and like for example, after midnight, the first bit that he plays usually after midnight is a goon show. They're called the Goons, and they were Spike Milligan, Harry Seacombe, Peter Sellers. I think there was a fourth guy. This was back in the 1950s. They had kind of a lunatic comedy show on BBC Radio. I believe it was BBC Radio back then. For example, one of the skits was the story, The Tale of Men's Shirts. Now remember, this is the 1950s, not long after World War II. So they were making fun of the Germans and making fun of themselves, the Brits as well. And The Tale of Men's Shirts was this story where the Germans had figured out how to put a chemical in the tail of the shirts of the military, the British military, so that when they sat down on the tail of the shirt, kaboom, affecting a certain part of their body. And they did this whole thing about solving this problem with the tail of men's shirts. Anyways, that's some of the lunacy that they do. Another one where Nettie Seagoon was talked into buying insurance to insure the English Channel against fire. It's dumb things like that. I forgot his name. He's lying on the beach. It's like February. It's freezing cold outside. He's in his bathing suit, and someone says, "What are you doing out here?" "I'm enjoying a beautiful day, but it's freezing cold. The thermometer says it's 85 degrees." He looks at, "But you've got this in a hot water bottle." "Well, of course, if I didn't put it in there, it would drop below zero and I'd freeze to death." It's nonsense like that. Anyways. That's my New Year's Eve evening that I'm looking forward to this evening. So that's one of my traditions. This time of year, I also like to reflect a little bit on friendships, because friends come and go. This year, status quo. I haven't lost any friends. I haven't gained any friends. It's been actually a pretty constant year. I'm going to, the coming year, looking ahead, I'm going to lose one friend. He's the friend who actually helped me to buy, at least, I mean, not with the money, but he helped me to pick out the video camera that I wanted to buy for my videos. He helped me set up my home with lighting, proper lighting to do videos and so forth. And he taught me some things about cinematography. That was one of his majors, or that was his major in college. He's going to be leaving California. When he told me, it was kind of like this. I'm going to be moving out of California, kind of in that sense. I don't want to get into it too much, but there was a lot of drama with the police and alcohol and a DUI and losing his driver's license and his parents having to come down. They live up in the Pacific Northwest. And he's been living with his grandmother, and I think his grandmother told him and his parents, it's time for him to find another place to live. So he's gonna move sometime during the spring, May, June maybe. So that's a friend that I'll lose this coming year. Hopefully I can pick up one to balance it off during 2018. But that's my reflection on friendships this year. I also like to look back on some of the purchases, the big purchases that I made. I bought an Instant Pot, but that wasn't a big purchase because I got that at a really good deal. They normally sell for $120, and I bought one on the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday sale. Got a brand new, latest model from Amazon for only $75, and I'm glad I ordered it when I did because later that day they were sold out. But as far as big purchases, like last year, my big purchase was an entirely new home theater system because I had an analog TV, analog cable box, and the cable company finally went all digital. Nothing would work anymore. So it was time. And my stuff was old, 20, 30 years old. The speakers, you pull the grill off the front of the speakers and you can see where it was all, the paper cone was all rotting out because the speaker was just so old. So, okay, it was time. I spent a lot of money last year. Bought everything new. New TV, big 65-inch, ultra high definition, 4K TV. Love that TV. I watched a lot of football this fall. A lot of football. I'm still watching football because the bowl games are going on now. I watched, was it Washington State and Penn State yesterday, and I wanted so badly for Penn State to win, and they did. I like Penn State. I like their quarterback, Trace McSorley. He can launch a ball, and his receiver, especially if it's Saquon Barkley, is in just the right spot to catch the ball when he gets downfield, and they score a touchdown or at least progress down toward the end zone. Great game. Loved watching that game. So, and then I bought a new receiver and a new all new speakers, new Blu-ray player. This year it was a Pedigo bicycle. I'll show you a picture of my Pedigo. It's an electric motor assist bicycle. So I still do most of the pedaling because I use it at the lowest setting where I do most of the work. And there's a sensor right behind where the pedals attach. And it knows, it kind of monitors my pedaling. It can tell when I'm straining a little bit, and then it'll kick in a little motor power. You can feel it. It kind of picks up a little bit of speed when I'm going uphill or I'm dealing with the wind, that sort of thing. So it's fun. I use it to go bicycle. I go shopping. I bicycled to the store yesterday. More about shopping in a bit. Went to the store yesterday on the bike. I join a friend once a week for lunch over at a Chinese restaurant, several blocks from here. But I just bike over there. It's just so easy. I've got a car, which was one of my unexpected expenses this year, which I'm going to count that as an expense for next year, because next year the plan is, looking forward, I'm going to try not to do any expensive purchases. I spent $3,000 on my car. I just brought it in for an oil change and a smog check. We have to have our cars smog inspected every other year here in California, and it needed this, it needed that, it needed this, it needed that. I trust the guys who are working on it. I know they know what they're doing. But the problem is it's an old car. It's only got 68,000 miles on it. And it's a 1993. I bike more than I drive. But no matter how little you use a car, some things are just going to get old and deteriorate, like rubber hoses, tubes, seals, gasket, the water pump's going to go. And that's what happened. So they replaced all this stuff. I'm hoping the car is going to be good for another 5 to 10 years as far as major repairs. That was over $3,000, all that stuff. But as I said, I'm going to count that as my one major expense for 2018. I'm going to try not to buy anything expensive in 2018. So this year was my Pedigo, which was $4,400. Yeah, an expensive bike, but I love it and I really enjoy it. And I did a lot of research and finally found the bike that I wanted. Next year we'll count the car, and hopefully there'll be no major expenses in 2018. Looking back at 2017, I've got to say that the one accomplishment that I'm most proud of, and I did it live on camera. If you follow my vlogs, you saw me do it live on camera. Some of you already know what I'm going to talk about because you watched me, you saw me. I cauterized my own nose, right? Cauterized my own nose. I had been to doctors, I've been to specialists. To be honest, they didn't do a very good job. And I think it was because of the swab that they used. I saw the swab that they used. It had a big bead of chemical on the end, almost as big as the swab of cotton that's on like a Q-tip. And that tells me it was probably a very low concentration. It was diluted a lot with extra powder and so forth. And I didn't feel much burning afterwards, after they did it. So I don't think, and I would still bleed. I still get nosebleeds. And what had happened, I was getting to the point where my nose was bleeding almost every day. Wash my face. You know how you wash your face and you're going to move your nose. Well, that would crack. That would crack the skin where there was a blood vessel. And very frustrating. So I bought these little swabs, and they have a little bead of the chemical on the end, which tells me it was concentrated. And as I dabbed it on where I knew the vein was, because I've stopped the flow of blood so many times, I knew exactly where the vein was. As I dabbed it on there, I could feel it burning. I could really feel it burning. It wasn't a very, very painful. It wasn't like debilitating pain, but I knew it was working. And since then, I have not had a single nosebleed. And I haven't exercised any care. I can wash my face, I can sneeze, I can sniff, I can blow my nose. Not one nosebleed. So I actually did a better job, I think, than the specialist did. And I have a package of 100. So for example, I've got some skin tags developing. I can use it to get rid of a skin tag. So that was probably the one thing that I was most proud of in 2017, that I successfully cauterized my own nose and did a better job than the specialists did. Which isn't, I don't want to laugh at the medical profession because they do a lot of good, but, well, anyways, looking ahead, I'm looking ahead to 2018. Most of you know that I have a cooking channel on YouTube, Mobile Home Gourmet, because I live in a mobile home. I'm going to continue to use my Instant Pot. I have some ideas to use my Instant Pot, which is it's like a multi-function countertop cooker, if you're not familiar with it. Most of you probably already have one or a similar model. It can be a pressure cooker. It can be a slow cooker. I made yogurt in it. You can hard boil a dozen eggs in it. You can use it for a lot of different functions. And it's nice because you just set it up and then walk away. It's hands-off cooking. You don't have to watch it. It takes care of itself. I have a really nice pressure cooker, a Kuhn Racone, really nice pressure cooker. Spent $150 for that thing. I think it was $150. And it's a good one. It'll last for the rest of my life and anyone who inherits it after me. But you have to watch it. You have to keep checking it every 5-10 minutes to make sure that the indicator is in the right place. If it's not enough steam, you have to add a little pressure, a little more heat to get the pressure up. If it gets too high, you can hear it hissing. Turn the heat down. With the Instant Pot, you just set it up, walk away. It's done. There's someone who moved into the park, and my first experience with a mini house. You've heard of mini houses. They're built sort of like a house, gabled roof, the whole thing, but it's built on a trailer. So she can haul it in, park it, and beautiful little thing. I can show you a picture of it. Beautiful little house. She gave me the day that it was moved in. She gave me the tour inside, such as it was. But a nice little setup, compact, economical space, little sitting area, a area to eat, a little meal area, a little kitchen with a 3-burner stove. She's got an oven. She's got a refrigerator, freezer, sink, so forth. Toward the back is there's a bathroom with an area for a stackable washer, dryer, shower, and then on either end up above there are 2 large lofts. You could easily get a king-size bed in each of those. Those are the sleeping areas, and it was built smartly, very intelligently. So, for example, you don't want to get stuck in there if there's a fire, right? The windows have these latches on them, these emergency latches. You can open it and kick the windows out to get out in the event of a fire. So really well thought out, well planned home. Nice little thing. She wants me to do a video inside of her home. Fine, as long as we can get the right day or do it in the evening. Problem is she's got big, huge floor-to-ceiling windows where the sitting area is, where we would have to do the cooking, and that they're south-facing. So there'd be glaring sunlight coming in all day. I block my windows to control lighting when I'm doing my studio lighting for a video. So we'd probably have to do it on a really rainy day when it's dark outside, or do it in an evening. But with the Instant Pot, we could do like I would call it a spontaneous stew. Let's throw some of this in there. Let's add some of this. Let's add some of that. I'm thinking some meat, maybe some wild rice and some brown rice, some cut up yams, pre-cook some beans, and then toss those in there. And then cook it for 15 minutes in a pressure cooker. Brown rice and wild rice will cook in 15 minutes. And then when it's done, let it depressurize and then eat our stew. I think it would be very easy to do and nothing too fancy. That's one of the beauties, I think, of the Instant Pot, is that you can make simple foods, but you just toss it in there, put the lid on, set it, and forget it. Go away, come back later on, and the food is done. So that's one of my plans for things in the coming year as far as videos for my cooking channel. I also got a Christmas present this year. These things, they're bannetons. These are 2 oval ones, one longer than the other. And then I got a round one. So these are for making bread. And I had to do some research. I always do a lot of research before I use something like that, because I want to know the story behind it. I want to know the science behind it, so I can do things right when I do my video. I don't want to just walk in cold without knowing what I'm doing. I do a lot of research before I do any of these videos. And I found out that the idea behind this caning, and the way you use them, is you dust them really, really well with flour. Some videos say to spray it very lightly with water, just mist a little bit of water in there, and then throw in a cup of flour and just keep moving it around until it's really coated well with flour. And then you, before you use it, you dust it fresh with flour, and you press the dough down into it. And the idea behind the banneton is this is for bread dough that would be a little bit too moist and wouldn't hold its shape if you were to just place it on, say, a baking sheet. It would just, as it rose, it would just kind of flatten out, and you end up with a flat piece of bread. So this is supposed to help it to hold its shape. And the flour and the caning are supposed to absorb moisture, so that around the outside of the bread, it starts to dry out a little bit and get stiffer. And therefore, when you turn it out onto a baking sheet, before you put it in the oven, that slightly stiffened outside would help it the loaf to hold its shape when it goes into the oven. There's 2 different styles. There's this style, which typically is used without a cloth lining, although some people do use a cloth lining The other style that uses a cloth lining is actually like a wicker basket, like the wicker basket you would put on your table with a napkin in there, and you put your dinner rolls in there. It's a wicker basket, and you use a cloth lining in that, and the cloth is supposed to do the same thing. Cloth, and you flour it well, and that absorbs the moisture. Some of the moisture wicks off some of the moisture from the dough. So I want to do some cooking videos, some bread videos using my bannetons to make some artisan loaves of bread. That should be really nice. So that's some of my plans for my cooking videos, bread, and more slow cooker, crock pot type recipes or pressure cooker recipes. Other things that I'm looking forward to, I think the big thing for 2018 is I'm so waiting to see what's going to happen with the midterm elections in November, because I'm wondering, what are the people, after 2 years, nearly 2 years of Donald Trump as president, being unpresidential, embarrassing our nation, we're losing our reputation with other nations in the world. They're laughing at us. It's embarrassing. What are they going to do when they go to the polls in November? And what's Trump going to do? If one or both houses of Congress, both chambers of Congress, if they lose their Republican majority and it becomes a Democratic majority in one or both chambers, what's Trump going to do? What's he going to tweet? Is he going to blame the Russians? The Russians rigged this election. He's not going to take the blame for himself, anyways. So that's probably the big thing that I'm looking forward to in 2018, is that I'm really going to be watching a lot of the news as leading up to the coming. It's going to be tough to watch because that's also football season. And I watched a lot of football this past fall. With a big 65-inch TV, you have to. And I'm still watching football because the bowl games are on now. I watched a lot of football. So it's going to be fun to try to watch the elections and watch football at the same time because that's football season. Anyways, that's the year it passed, and what I'm looking to in the future. I do have to mention one more thing, is I did make a New Year's resolution, and that's the point of that sign on my freezer. I made a New Year's resolution, and hopefully it won't take me long to fulfill this, but I am not going to buy any groceries except milk for my coffee and maybe occasionally a bag of frozen vegetables to fill out my lazy man meals. I am going to eat the food that's in my freezer because my freezer is full. I just made 44 cups of chicken stock for winter soups, and I barely squeezed it in there. My next step was to take out the ice tray, throw the ice out, and use that for storage space. And I thought, no, that's going too far. Not that I need ice in the winter. I use ice mostly in the summer. But I thought, that's it. There's things in there that I forgot that were in there. I got to eat that down. So that's the point of the sign. I'm not going to buy any food for the next month or two, maybe. I'm going to eat the food that is in my freezer. That's the plan. That's my New Year's resolution. So that sign on the freezer is to remind me, eat what's in there before you buy anything. So that's my New Year's resolution. I'll let you know how that goes. So anyways, there's my reflection upon 2017, some of what I'm looking forward to in 2018. I want to wish you all a happy and healthy new year. May you enjoy a lot of blessings in the year to come, and again, good health. That's always good for all of us. And thanks for listening.